And they've already done it by the sounds of it. I think the signs, if we haven't received them already, they're on their way. So I'm thinking,
A nickel?
well, if you want to give 2% more or 3% more, that'd be 12 cents per capita or 13 cents per capita. So that's 12.
Let's go with the 2%, because that's what it costs us every time we do it, 2% more.
It's $1,390.44, 12 cents.
Let's just go do the calculation. Okay. 1,300 and
90.44.
The 1,300, that is the increase?
No, that'd
No,
be the total.
the increase would be
13.
$200.
Oh, at 2%.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but any more.
Did you do that, Heather?
So what number are we gonna go with for the graduate?
2%,
It's like
12
you do
cents per.
something and then
Works
you
out
expect
to
somebody.
1,300 and
Without asking first.
1390.44.
1394.
What you think? Got it. It's sort of a great
They used to come here, they came here at the beginning. It'd be a-
No, that was,
Stars.
COP program.
Oh, yeah.
And Scott, those signs, you wonder, are those just coming to our RM office for us to put up in our area, or are they installing them?
I am thinking it's for us to put up.
Mhm.
So that's the other reason why
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking,
That's another job.
That's right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay, so if we want to bring the resolution forward, please?
Resolve council approve the following 2023 requested grant, Manitoba Crime Stoppers, 2023, $1,390.44.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, East Beaches Heritage Wing, request for a tourism development grant.
Correct, they're put forward for a tourism development grant, and this is just to help with that support. They'd be getting the funding through the Heritage budget itself, and it would be a $2,500 commitment.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So they're not really asking for more money, they're just directing that $2,500.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So before it went to the Heritage Foundation, and then they gave it to it? So
It
are we
was
still
always,
gonna have to give 2,500 or whatever we give Heritage, and now an additional
we
2,500?
give about $15,000 for Heritage Committee, and then they direct the funds to several things to run.
So we're not giving that 15 to them?
We're still giving them the same amount. They're just
15.
taking a portion of that, of 2,500, directing to this, so that they can then get matching funds from the Interlake Tourism.
So just to be clear, 12,500 will go to Heritage, and 25 will go to the wing. Still
Yes.
15, right?
Still 15 to
Yeah.
the Heritage.
Okay,
and Heritage.
yeah, all right.
Go ahead, Sandra.
So for clarification on what Councillor Horvath said, is that just, are they gonna be coming to us all the time, just to clarify where the monies are going? So out of that 15,000, no?
No, just this one specifically because they needed to have the RM support as part of the grant
Only need
application.
the letter.
A letter, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It couldn't come from the Heritage Association, it'd have to
Directly,
come from the
yes.
RM
Yes.
and match.
Perfect.
Okay, so if we have a resolution, if we could bring it forward.
Resolve the East Beaches Heritage Wing will have the financial assistance from the Rural Municipality of St. Colette of up to $2,500 upon the approval of the 2023 Interlake Tourism Association Tourism Development Grant application.
Moved by Councillor Horvath, second by Councillor Strang. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Okay, we have one bylaw, I believe. 2023-001, 2023 bylaw. 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 2023-001
Yes, Madam Mayor, and what this is first reading for the acquisition of some land, and to be able to then use that for road purposes. So there was a subdivision that had occurred in the past, and there was an option for the RM to be able to go and acquire 50 feet from each side of the property for 100 feet for a future road. This is off of, let me see if I can bring it up for you so that you can see which one it is. I'll bring it up on the map.
Yeah, this is just finalizing something that happened in 2007.
Correct. We had the option to acquire the land, and it wasn't really necessarily needed as much in the past because there wasn't any further development. But since we've approved that recent development off of Raleigh, yes. What's the number here?
Fire transfer station or something.
Exactly, I'll just do a zoom into it, it's much easier. So what you'll see is this land was the one that was just recently developed. And so they're putting in the roadway right along here. Minkus needs to be able to go through.
Right.
And so this is the property right here, right there. For these two these two properties were subdivided, this one and this one. And so we had the opportunity to be able to get 50 feet on each side. So this way the road comes up to here, and then it's just these two pieces owned by the same individual. And then the other property, so that when they come for a subdivision, we'll be able to do the full connection. The opportunity here was to, this is the person who came in to do the development that just recently acquired the property, and that had an impact on our ability to continue to burn. So they're doing some development as part of that. They said they were doing this, we felt it was, it was a proper time to go and secure that 50 feet before somebody went and did any further. They've agreed to it, both parties have signed off on it. In order to make it easier without having to go through a subdivision, it was easier to do it as an expropriation, but it's not an expropriation. They've agreed that they'll be selling it as part of that, but it's an expropriation in the eyes of land titles.
It's an expropriation for a dog.
That's right. All signed off already. And so that's what we're moving forward with as part of this application.
So non-disputed.
Non-disputed expropriation, signed off in advance so that they don't have a chance to change their mind or anything else. And this was an obligation that they clearly understood was an obligation under the previous one. And it was to save the RM some money without having to go through a whole subdivision process.
Good work, Deepak.
Okay.
Well, it's not that we would have had to go through a subdivision, because it was through the subdivision process way back when the properties were subdivided.
No,
Like
there
we were,
wasn't a taking, it was just an obligation that we could acquire. And it would have been under our own expense at that time. And so if it was subdivided with the parcel of land identified,
Yeah.
but it never was. So if you take a look at the land,
It's just
the
the same.
property line was right there. The development
Right.
agreement said we had the right to take 50 feet.
right,
Now, normally what we're doing now with new subdivisions is we're asking for that taking right away. So that it's
Yeah.
all part of the subdivision process
yeah.
and gets registered as. So it was more of a discussion back and forth with land titles as to how to do the registration without having to go through all that extra work.
Okay.
Resolved that bylaw 14 of 2023, being a bylaw to acquire land for municipal purposes, be given first reading.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Strang, Counselor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
And we'll double check, but I don't think this can come forward for second reading next week. It has to have a minimum time for a bylaw, and then we do first reading and second reading.
I'll check for you.
Yeah, please check. Otherwise, we'll bring it back for second reading at next meeting. Okay, so the next is communication for information. There are several pieces of information here, and I don't have anything specific to speak to on any of these items, Madam Mayor.
No, I really don't either, other than the good, not Good Roads, geez. AMN has all the information for the, I thought I just saw it. Yeah, the convention minutes from last year, and the financial statements. So if anybody's interested in that from AMN, that's there. And then, of course, there's the information on the Manitoba Good Roads Association. And other than that, I really don't have very much either. So if there's no other comments or anything that council wants to bring up, we can move on to our committee reports. And I'm going to start with Councillor Spicer today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I neglected to put the committee of the whole on October 24th in my last report, so we had a public works update and some policy discussions. October 25th, we went to Councillor Sutherland and I went to the MAR Forum. There were speakers on trying to reuse articles before needing to recycle or send them to the landfill. So they had a person talk on the Manitoba Habitat for Humanity Manitoba Restore. It's pretty interesting, what they take, what they don't take. And there was also a speaker on, they have a furniture bank, and they do actually, if things are donated, they actually treat them for any type of pests before they're handed on, so that was quite interesting. And then I sat in on the composting organic waste discussion, and of course it was more of larger, like the city of Winnipeg's Green Card project. But it was still very interesting information. And then in the afternoon, I didn't stay for the whole thing, but in the afternoon they had a few people talk about engaging communities, trying to help to get the word out. And there were a few, actually 3 people that spoke on it with a few strategies. And some of it is just language too, like even with climate change, some of the language that's being used actually isn't helping people to change their behaviors because, like if you say to someone, drive less, it's like you're kind of shaming them. So it doesn't really help to change their behavior, where you could say something like, drive more people. So, thought it was pretty interesting. On November the 7th, I went to the Metro Region Community Consultation The question you had, I was there at 10:30, or sorry, 11:30 when it opened. There were very few people there right at the beginning. Probably by the time I left, though, there had been between 20 and 30 people there. So it wasn't massive, no. It was set up storyboard with people who could answer questions. There were questions on the storyboards that they wanted you to answer and give any other type of information there. In some ways, I'm not sure I like that because your question and answers, you only have a certain answer that you can give, which can kind of lead people into maybe not the answer that they want to give. But I did put some comments down about there's not been a whole lot of emphasis on if we are all going to work under this plan, which essentially, in some ways, directs development. Then, if they want it to work, they're going to have to look at some type of a tax sharing agreement or something to that effect. Because I don't see the municipalities quit being competitive without it. Like if they want us to be all on the same page, then somehow there has to be a sharing agreement put together. That was the main thing I was trying to drive home to. So, unless there's any other questions, I did, by the way, because of sickness, I did miss a couple of my meetings. I didn't go to the library board meeting, and I didn't go to the planning convention.
Well, I think you were not the only one in that boat. There was a lot of people not feeling well, not only on our council, but other councils too, so. Thank you for that. Any questions for Scott? Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
So I did go to the planning for one day with Councillor Vasarovich. So they talked about city living, how transportation and all that kind of stuff, all sort of like the stuff we've always talked about here and building and all that. So I was only there for one day, and then I got to go with it.
So you spread it around before you
I got it probably from there. I guess there's a lot of people wandering around there. And then I went, the other thing I did was I went to Remembrance Day in Scanterbury. So that was kind of interesting. It was kind of neat that we got to meet that Prince's son was there. So he goes all over the world almost, promoting his father's legacy of this. So that was kind of neat. And that's it.
Okay, thanks for that. Any questions for Councillor Horbus? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you. October 24th, we had our call meeting. October 25th, as Councillor Spicer said, we attended the Mar Forum. Scott kind of touched upon most of it there. There was a session that I went to about transfer stations, and Pine Creek First Nation was there. And I thought it was going to be a success story. You know, it's the first transfer station in one of the reserves, which I guess it is a success story in a way, but when they spoke, like the transfer station's there, but nobody really was trained on what to do. So when they spoke about that, that's mainly all they spoke about. They just made, they have a nice transfer station where they don't know how to run it properly. And they also spoke about, which we have even on our, a reliable tire, the tire pickup. You know, and they said that they contact them and they just, takes forever to pick up the tires. I know they have schedules, and I can relate to that because we had the, I don't know if we still do. And there was somebody that was at that meeting. He couldn't comment too much, but he says there's going to be positive changes to that. That's all he could say. Because he says there's a lot of municipalities, and now this First Nation here is trouble with tires piling up, and so that was some good news. I don't know what's coming down the pipes, but something. November 7th, Remembrance Day ceremony is Broken Head First Nation. November 9th is a weed board meeting. Kristen, in her reports, some of the spraying, like for our municipal north of Levo, did not get done just due to the weather. So everything else went good, but there was some spraying that they could not get done. There's going to be a 3% increase to all the municipalities they gave with their fees, and that's just kind of a given. And also I had brought up, because Rob and I talked about our walking trails, about having them sprayed. So she said that's not a problem. Nobody has contacted her, so if we try and remember for next year to have them, because they do it. They just haven't done it for us, because we haven't, because there is a problem with maintaining them. So, and another thing that the manager brought up, our transfer stations and our landfill, how the upkeep was that they're kept up very nice. The people, they spray all their, and she said just, we're doing a great job. Whoever is looking after our transfers, all of them, you know, so that was nice to hear. So Public Works, I should phone Kevin and mention that to him. November 11th, Remembrance Day at Grand Marais, I attended. And it was well attended. And that is it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Dave. Any questions? Go ahead, Sandra.
I'm just a question, if they're going to increase our rates, and I know everything's going up, but if they didn't get spraying anything north of Levo, our municipality is quite large. That's a big chunk of our municipality that have got sprayed at all. Is that how I understood that? So,
Yeah, no, and she brought that up in her report.
yeah.
And it was just due to weather.
Okay.
Rain conditions mainly, when they were scheduled to go do that. And it just, she said that, because they do a pretty good job, not just our municipality, but that she just had to put that in there. That was just some pieces, not everything north of Levo, just some areas. Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, sorry, that's okay.
I should have explained it. There's just some areas north of Levo that they unfortunately couldn't get to because of weather conditions.
Well, and my question would be to that, and yes, there probably are some areas that couldn't get done, but would those be given consideration to be done first next year kind of thing? That would be what I would be asking, so, but it's hard to know.
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's good.
I will try and remember to bring that up, or I could even contact Kristen and find it.
It's just that I guess I think that, it's like with everything else, if you get so far and you have to quit, rather than do the same area again, the next time around, can't we go from the other end and try and get the whole thing done? So
I can talk to.
Yeah, that's
Kristen,
fine,
to
just,
kind of
it
find
was
out.
just a comment, like, I
Yeah,
just think that,
makes sense.
you know, it should be given consideration.
Yes.
Okay, anything else for Dave? Go ahead, Sandra.
I really don't have much to report. October 28th was the Interlake Awards Night, which I didn't make because I was ill. I think the only one out of our municipality who got to go was the mayor and then our staff. So I'm very sorry that I did miss that because that would have been a great evening. The other thing I have to report is I attended, we had our Red River Basin board meeting on November 2nd. It was by Zoom. And they went over a lot of the items that are going to be gone over at the conference that will be in January 18th in Fargo. And they're looking for success stories, anything that to do with water, drainage, but I was thinking maybe, not yet, but maybe another year we can do something with bringing the water under the floodway. Because that's a big thing, that's, especially right now that down in the US that they're building a floodway around Fargo. Ted did announce that they did get a grant for $12 million. But down in the US, they get they get bags of money there.
Look at their roads, their
Yeah,
ways,
exactly.
highways.
Yeah, so that was like a big wow, but Red River Basin was selected. Other than that, they went over budget, funding, staffing, everything's on track and they're in the positive, and some of the topics like for the conference for the Red River Basin, Pelley's Lake, like a lot of it is quite a few things for Manitoba. They're going to be doing a bioharvester for the cattails. They're going to have a cattail session there. How federal policies going forward affect our water policies. So, and that's, they said to look at every municipality and every district, and that's for US and Canada. They're going to have, it's called MAU, it's for about methane gases, how they're in the ground and how they affect our water. So there's going to be actually, and they were just building on some of the other sessions there, but they are looking for success stories. Netley Marsh, they have secured the permit already for next year too. So and maybe with the different governments that they'll come on board also. So I know Larry now, he's really pushing that, he's being a board member for the city of Selkirk. That's the first thing he brings up all the time is about continuing with the Netley Marsh. So I just think we have to stay behind him because it is a good thing for our areas also. And other than that, oh, and Scott Peterson, he's from North Dakota. He's one of the board members. They said in their lakes right now they have found 5 different invasive species, different varieties now. So, like, you know, that's going to be another thing coming up. I know at our open house, Gull Lake, the guys there had a different one. So, but this, they said down in North Dakota now there's 5 of them.
They're just feeding off each other,
Yeah.
adjusting. It's like rats who get poisoned after a while they get immune.
Yeah, so that was, I don't know if they'll have something there at the conference too, but they'll do some kind of display thing on it, but, and that's it.
Okay, any questions for Sandra? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, that program with the cattails, is that, like they have a machine that cuts them down like in the ditches and stuff, or is this was in the marshes? It would be the marshes because they would.
I think it's the ditches that they're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then from what I saw, I haven't seen the machine yet though, but they're gonna do a presentation on it there, and it's something that goes into an incinerator and then it burns it.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
okay.
Because at one time they did a study, they were gonna take those bulrushes and make them into pellets
yeah.
for burning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they weren't burning good because they hold a lot of moisture.
I think they're trying a few different things with them, but they're so plentiful.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, another invasive species is the spiny water flea that's in the Winnipeg River.
That one's been
Yes.
around for a while though.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
we didn't see any pictures, he was just mentioning now that there's 5 of them, so. And I can't remember the ones that Gabe Cairns had, they had them at the table, I remember.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is that the one there that he had? Okay.
Yeah, because they're in the Winnipeg River, so. Okay, anything else for Sandra? Okay, I'll go ahead. Of course, we were all here on the 24th of October for our committee of the whole and then our regular council meeting. And yes, I was at the Interlake Tourism Awards. It was actually very nice, and of course, we all know that Brenna won the Recreation Director, won the Employee of the Year, and the Lockport Community Development Group received the Marketing Campaign Award for anything under $2,500 for their marketing. And Red River North Tourism won Event of the Year with Holiday Alley. So it was very nice. It was, I don't know, it seemed like there were not all the tables were full, so I don't know if others were like us, because there was only Brenna and I there and her 2 boys. Like Brenna's partner downstairs,
She did pretty good,
Taylor, yeah, she wasn't there either, and I thought she was gonna be there, so, but, you know, it was still a nice evening. On October the 31st, I was at the East Selkirk Arena. I was asked to attend and drop the puck for the inaugural game of our new St. Clements hockey team, the Gators, so that was kind of interesting. It was very cold in there, and there weren't a lot of people there, but I've been talking to different people, and it seems that there's getting to be more interest in it. I don't know, you haven't had another home game since then.
18th.
So, yeah, not till the 18th there's one. And then I noticed there wasn't another one until the end of December.
Yeah.
So, you know, home games here are not that close together, but I guess there are quite a few teams, and I think that one in December, it's against a team from the RM of McDonald's, so that should be kind of interesting. November the 1st, I had a John Q meeting with a couple of the people or the administration to review all the financials for our next board meeting, and just to make sure that everything was in order. The RM of Taché, I ended up on my own because Councillor Sutherland was going to go and he was not well, and I think everybody else that was supposed to go was not well, so I kind of rigged up and took a ride, and it was kind of interesting. The presentation was by Manitoba Justice on public safety, and some of the rules for public safety were reviewed, and also available training that they have. And if we were looking to have a safety officer, Justice will pay for that training. And the 2 reports that were given were from McDonald and Headingley. East St. Paul was supposed to give a report, but there was only 2 councillors there, and they were not prepared to do their report, so. November the 7th, the Remembrance Day at Broken Head. I guess this one I always do like to go to because they have participation from all the kids from kindergarten to grade 9, reading poems and singing songs. There was a poem that they read that was called the 7 Sacred Teachings Song. That was a song, and then there was Indigenous Veterans, and that was a poem that was read. Very, very touching wording in these 2. This poem especially had very, very touching wording. So. And as somebody else said, Tommy Prince's son was there, and there were actually about a half a dozen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 veterans listed on the program, and 4 of them were there, and they were presented with a gift from Broken Head, which I thought was very nice. And I know that 3 of them live right on the reserve there, so I thought that was very, very fitting. And then, of course, on November the 11th, I attended the event in Selkirk, and that one is sponsored by the Legion, the Army, Navy, and Selkirk. And there were a number of wreaths laid at the arena, along with from the dignitaries, and there were also some citizens that laid wreaths from the area. So And then everybody went back to the Legion and they have a bit of a lunch and it was stew and bannock, so it was kind of nice too, so.
As good as Canterbury soup?
No, this was stew, it was, the Scantlebury's lunch was good too.
Was it well attended, like at the
You know
arena?
what, the, I guess I don't know what direction, the east side of the arena was pretty much full, but the west side was maybe half, and I guess half, part of one section is for the community choir, and then there's people on the rest of it, so, but the, behind where we were sitting, so they could see where the podium was and everything, it was totally full, like, I don't think there was an
Okay.
empty seat, so.
One thing about the Canterbury thing, if you don't mind,
No,
they didn't have to, if you were a treaty and you had your status on reserve, you didn't have to go, you could not be drafted.
that's right.
These guys volunteered to go.
When they lost their treaty.
And they lost their
That's
treaty.
what I felt.
And then when they came back, after the war, they couldn't get their treaty back. So they had no place, they couldn't live on the reserve, and they were kind of homeless. So, I mean, eventually they got the treaty back or whatever, but this was kind of a, you know, you go volunteer, serve your country, and then they kick you out to the curb. That was all in that poem, eh? That-
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
Yeah, it stated all that in that poem. It was kind of really, eye-opening.
Yeah, it was very interesting, so, I guess though I thought there would have been a few more students, like when it got to the grade 9s, I think there was only like 4 students, so, you know, I don't know whether they go to school elsewhere or
Selkirk,
Selkirk probably, but I mean,
and Walter.
Walter White, yeah, but you know, like the enrollment, I was gonna say at Broken at Scantlebury School is not that big anymore, so they go to the other schools. And that's all I have, so I'm gonna turn it over to Deepak if he has anything he wants to share with us.
November 24th was the cow meeting and the council meeting, and then I got COVID.
Shut it down.
Sure.
I came back to work and we dealt with a few items, and then I went away out of town. And so I don't have a lot to report, unfortunately. We did have the meeting on the CCBC contract with our daycare provider, and had some meetings on our 2 major construction projects that are happening right now, which is the water lines from Lockport to here, and the other is, or from here to Lockport, whichever way you want to look at it, and the other is the curb stops for the sewer connections are being done, and they fall a little behind, but still are expecting to finish this year for the majority of them. I think it's just on Henderson Highway. They've had to deal with some of the construction on Henderson Highway as well as locates. They've encountered some challenges where fiber optics aren't exactly where they were supposed to be, at least when they're been identified, and sometimes they're quite a bit lower or quite a bit higher than where they've been identified. Beyond that, we should be making a decision on the Lockport sewage treatment plant decommissioning and the lift station installation. The project that should be coming forward very shortly, and so that should take care of that. I've been having some discussions with the CAO, and he's away right now, but when he gets back, we'll try to finalize the discussions with the arms St. Andrews to have a meeting between the 2 councils on where we're going to go on service sharing and water between the 2 communities. That's it from my end.
Okay, thank you for that. Heather, do you have anything that you would like to share with us today?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You're good? Okay. So I guess we can go in camera and see where we go.
Lunch is here.
Lunch is here, so we'll go in camera and then we'll break for lunch.
Sure.
Okay.
Just so it doesn't-
Resolved, council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues. And further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(b) of the municipal act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Sutherland, seconds, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Thank you.